Okay, we're now on to video 2 of solving with the quadratic formula. Okay, so first things first, we got to make it equal to 0. So we're going to subtract that 4x over. So this is our new equation in standard form. Then we're identifying a is 1, b is -4, c is -9. So plugging into the quadratic formula, x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. Okay. -4 is a +4, plus or minus. Remember, we're simplifying the inside of the radical. 16 plus 36, all over 2. 16 plus 36 is radical 52, all over 2. We're then going to simplify radical 52. We're going to think of its perfect square factors. Radical 52 could be rewritten as 52 has the factors of radical 4 times radical 13. So this would be 2 radical 13 when it simplifies out, all over 2. Finally, remember, we look at these whole numbers. We're going to simplify this fraction. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So this is my final answer. 2 plus or minus radical 13. All right. Problem number 8. First things first, move everything over. So we have to subtract this 8x, and we have to add this 1 to both sides of our equation. So we're subtracting an 8x, and we're adding a 1. So on the left side, I'm going to have -2x squared minus 8x plus 18 equals 0. From there, we're identifying a is -2, b is -8, and c is 18. I'm going to switch colors. X equals -b, -8, plus or minus the square root of -8 squared minus 4 times a times c. Notice I ran out of radical. I've got to extend that radical. All of that belongs under the radical, and then all of what we just wrote is our numerator, because our denominator is just 2 times a. Okay, simplifying where we can underneath the radical. So we have a +8 plus or minus 64. -4 times -2 times 18 is a positive 144, all over -4. 8 plus or minus radical 208, all over -4. Now thinking of factors of 208. Factors of 208. 208 would be radical 16 times radical 13. So on our next line, x equals 8 plus or minus. Radical 16 is 4. 4 radical 13, all over -4. We're going to simplify this fraction, divide all the pieces by -4. 8 divided by -4 is a -2, plus or minus 1 radical 13. This is my answer. Okay, next two on our sheet. Here we go. Again, we need it equal to 0, so we're going to move this 4 over. So I'm going to have what? -8x squared plus 3 equals 0. So if we're identifying things, a is -8. There isn't an x term, so b is 0, and c is 3. So if we're plugging these in, x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. So just because one of your terms is 0 doesn't mean you shouldn't substitute it in. And 0 operates just like 0 operates. Negative 0, well, that doesn't exist, so we don't have to write negative 0. 0 squared, well, that's 0, so I don't have to write that portion. Negative 4 times negative 8 times 3 is a positive 96. So 0 plus 96 is radical 96 all over negative 16. Now we have to think of factors of 96. Factors of 96 would be 16 times 6. So this is going to simplify. X equals plus or minus. Radical 16 is 4. 4 radical 6 all over negative 16. Again, we have these whole numbers that we're going to simplify. We're going to divide the top and the bottom by negative 4. So that's going to be a plus or minus radical 6 all over 4. And that is our answer. I have space, so I'll go ahead and just write it again in its curly bracket, plus or minus radical 6 all over 4. Okay, problem number 10. Again, we must make it equal to 0, so we're going to move this 8 over. Nothing to subtract the 8 from, so we get x squared plus 10x minus 8 equals 0. A is 1, B is 10, C is negative 8. So plugging it in into the quadratic formula, x equals negative b, negative 10, plus or minus square root of 10 squared minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times A. Okay, negative 10 plus or minus 100 minus 100 plus A is negative 1. I almost made a mistake. A is negative 1, so it's a minus 32 all over negative 2. Okay. Continuing, negative 10 plus or minus radical 68 all over negative 2. Think of factors of 68. 68 are radical 4 times radical 17. So x equals negative 10 plus or minus 2 radical 17 over negative 2. Final step, divide everything by negative 2. So x equals a positive 5 plus or minus radical 17. Okay. Final 2. Problem number 11. Okay, it's already equal to 0, so now we just have to identify. A is negative 3, B is 8, C is negative 7. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. Negative 8 plus or minus radical 64 minus 84 all over negative 6. Negative 8 plus or minus radical negative 20 all over negative 6. Remember, a negative under the radical is I, so this is I radical 20. Radical 20 is radical 4 times radical 5 over negative 6, so this is negative 8 plus or minus. We'll write the 2 in front of the I, 2I radical 5 over negative 6. Finally, simplify our fraction. Divide all our numbers by a negative 2. So this will be a positive 4 plus or minus I radical 5 over 3. This is my final answer. So what did I divide? I took all these whole numbers and divided them all by negative 2. Why did I pick negative? Because my denominator was negative. We don't want a negative denominator. All right, last one. Move everything over. So we've got to subtract the 4x. And we've got to subtract the 5. So I've got 5x squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Here, a is 5, b is negative 4, c is negative 5. So plugging them in, x equals negative b, so negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. All right, so I got a positive 4 plus or minus square root of 16 minus 80 all over 10. (16 minus 80 is a negative 64, so 4 plus or minus radical negative 64 over 10. We're now going to simplify our radical. X equals 4 plus or minus 8i over 10, and then divide everything by 2, so 2 plus or minus 4i over 5. That is my final answer. Okay, that's it for our notes.